On the
Record. Oh,
welcome everybody. My name is Marti Forrest, and I am hosting this Empath Masterclass series with Jill Hoyrup today. This is a masterclass series on creating healthy, clear boundaries. Geared toward empaths, highly sensitive. We all feel the energy. Some of us are more attuned to it than others, which can make it a little more challenging in having and knowing where and how to set the boundaries. So this is more of a conversation today about developing the clear boundary for yourself, how to trust yourself and know where to set it and when to set it. And in all that, knowing that you have a voice and are heard in the world. All right, this is Jill Hoyrup I have today. I'm so excited to do this. She is an intuition expert, energy healer, writer, and mentor. It's amazing. This woman used her intuition, trusted it to move from Seattle to Belize in 2014. It just amazes me. And today she helps people practice and rock their intuition so they can build trust and confidence in that and make decisions in all areas of your life using your intuition. So I will turn it over to Jill to share a little bit about herself, her story. We had a little conversation with you, and I loved the part about your recovery from overthinking. That really struck me deeply because I so relate to it.
Yep.
Welcome, Jill.
Hi. Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Me too.
I'm laughing about the overthinking because it came to me in one, like writing a bio for something once, and I'm like a recovering overthinker because I really am. So I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about, I'll just jump in, I guess. Living life and not knowing as a kid that I was highly sensitive. I was labeled shy initially as a kid, later, maybe 20s and 30s, labeled an introvert. And I'm not saying I'm not those things, but it wasn't the right label, right? It wasn't the right description. And so only in like the recent last 5 years, since I've been like totally immersed in all things intuition and energy, have I really discovered that I'm highly sensitive and that I'm Claireempathic, which is actually a intuitive gift. It's a type of intuition that people talk a lot about empaths, but I realize there's something called a Clairempathy, which is like supercharged empaths. And a lot of us, I believe, are Clairempaths. And so when I realized that, I was like, I could pinpoint back at age like 3 and 4, like sensing the energy of situations I was in around my family or neighbors and recognizing, holy moly, like no wonder I was so quiet. Like, what do I do with this energy?
Yes.
And so that was kind of a big deal. So learning to navigate life, moving forward in my 30s, for like the last 20 years, getting into energy healing and getting into learning how to trust and use my intuition has kind of led me to, where I am today. But I started out as that overthinker. I started out as that person that basically lived in my head, for 33 years. I lived in my head. I processed everything. I have a lot of air in my astrology chart. My human design chart also talks a lot about gathering information. I've tried to learn all the things so I can figure myself out. And I think I've got a good handle on it now. I'm 53. I got a good handle on it. But that's how I navigated my whole life, was problem solving, like overanalyzing, overprocessing. And while I still do believe the brain serves a purpose, I really feel now that not doing that so much is way more useful for you in your life and beneficial to kind of follow the flow of feelings and energy instead of trying to think of everything, think and do from the brain.
How do you shift from, because I am that also, the overthinker, how do you shift from thinking, filtering through the brain? So, because that creates safety, the illusion of, to feeling it and completely surrendering to your intuition and trusting that.
I started learning how to do this when I studied Abraham Hicks 20 plus years ago. And they talk a lot about feel, don't think. That was kind of my mantra for a while, was like, feel it, don't think it. Like, because thoughts, yes, thoughts matter, thoughts, create a reality, but it was more about kind of getting myself away from the repetitive thoughts, the constant thinking, the spiraling. I call it the brain spiral. Like when you
Mm.
just take a thought and you run with it because you're trying to figure something out. So I had to train myself to step back, to notice, what are my thoughts? We have so many automatic tape recorders going on from our childhood, from life, from our beliefs, from our experiences, and all it is a repeating story. It's an auto repeat of that belief system,
Yeah.
phrases, stories. So I had to literally stop myself in the moment of, um, during the day. I actually teach this for intuition too, same thing. Like, say, just every hour, stop yourself and tune into, what were you thinking? What does it sound like? What does it feel like? What were the words or the phrases? Is it useful? Is it healthy? Is it, making your life better, or is it keeping you stuck in that all that old stuff? So noticing, that'll also help you notice between your thoughts and your intuition, because that was my thing. If you're always in your thoughts, then how can you ever really hear or listen to your intuition, because you're kind of trapped in this cycle. So by learning how to just step back a little bit and to stop thinking so much and just focus on feelings. See, I lived in my head, so I didn't even know what feelings were. I mean, I was in therapy at age 19 in college with a little feeling wheel and learning what feelings were,
Yes.
because we didn't have feelings in my family. So that was a
Right.
that was a I had to learn. I had to learn, what is this feeling. So hopefully not everybody is that extreme, the other way, but so you have a glimpse of kind of what feelings are, right? Or so what is it that you're feeling? So it really just takes some conscious effort and practice to slow it down, to tune into what you're thinking. Because once you learn what you're thinking, then you can shift it. Then you can reframe it to a neutral statement or a positive statement, and lose that spiral, that tape recorder stuff.
And now that you've been practicing this, we'll just assume that people are taking this, becoming conscious, aware of their thoughts, pausing whenever you remember, because you set a timer for every hour. How do you distinguish between, because it's all my voice in my head? I think that's probably true for a lot of us. It's all my voice. How do I distinguish what are my thoughts and what are my intuition? Like there's some kind of difference in that.
Once you know what your thoughts sound like, what you sound like you said, like, what
Yes.
your phrases are, what your nuances are with how you think. So with intuition, usually intuition is a totally random bit of information that comes in out of nowhere. So it's not something you were just thinking about. It's something that has nothing to do with what you were just thinking about. So if you're aware of what you're thinking about and something comes in about your friend Susie, then you're like, I should probably pay attention to this, because it's your intuition. It's that I call them flybys, like those flybys of information that are coming in out of nowhere, that are kind of nudging you to pay attention. Um, I always hear about the stories of, like, driving home from work, and you get the feeling maybe you should turn left instead of go your normal route, and then you don't listen, and so then you run into an accident, or a traffic jam or something, and so then you look back and you thought, oh, I kind of did have that little niggle to turn left, but I didn't. And I mean, it happens to all of us all the time. So it's just a matter of noticing and paying attention, just a little bit of extra attention, a few seconds of extra attention to those things that are popping in. The biggest thing people also do is they blow it off. They blow off that, yeah, and it's normal, because you're kind of like, why would I care? Especially if it's out of the blue, right? You're like, what is that about? So you blow it off. So I teach to start paying attention to those, to get a notebook out and start writing it down. And then what happens when you write it down is it's documented, and you look through your list every week and you're like, oh, wait a minute. I know why I got that now, because this other thing happened, or I learned this about something. And so that now I see why I got that piece of information. So you're able to put it together later. So really, it doesn't have to be this big serious, let's sit down and evaluate our thoughts. It's just making
Right?
it right. Because that, I like seeing energy healing. It's like, man, you can shift anything with energy healing, and it doesn't have to be big and scary and this big, we've got all this work to do to get you better. Like, it's not about that. It's like, I want to have fun. Like, you got to make it easy and fun. Otherwise you're not going to want to do it.
Oh,
So to me, that's what happened with intuition. Was I just made practicing, and because I have the brain the way I do, I would ask more questions. I would figure out more things. I would kind of dig deep into my intuition and figure out, why and what and where. Like, that's why I wrote a book. I wrote a book about it, because I was like, this doesn't have to be this difficult for people to learn how to tap in. So really spending a little bit of extra moments, seconds on those niggles that you get, and on what your thoughts feel like and sound like, you're going to be able to distinguish. As Clairempaths or empaths, you're picking up on other people's energy all the time, and not just other people, but other things, businesses, animals, plants, planetary stuff. So when you know what you sound like and what you feel like with your thoughts, you're going to recognize when it's not yours. And that's one of the biggest things for empaths. Here's tool number one, is to ask when your mood shifts all of a sudden, either after a phone call with somebody, out of the blue, when your teenager comes home and is in a grumpy mood, and then all of a sudden you're grumpy. Like, you're picking up, literally tuning into other people's energy and emotions as if it's yours. So the first thing to ask yourself is this mine?
yeah.
And you have to answer the question, though. You can't, you got to sit with it first and be like, okay, I was just in my normal status quo mood. And now my mood, I'm either mad, I'm sad, I'm upset, I'm something. Why? Did I just talk to somebody? Did somebody come home and come into the room and change anything? Is it theirs? Is it mine? Well, coworkers, all that's the people you live with. That's how you know. Same as how intuition is out of the blue, something. When your emotions are changing out of the blue, that's your trigger. That's your way of noticing, this is likely not mine.
Very likely. I still forget to do it sometimes, but it's a super powerful, simple question. And I learned also, that's an amazing tool, and I love that you shared that. I learned that I don't have to always know whose it is. A simple question,
yeah.
and the energy will dissipate usually if it's not mine.
Yeah. A lot of times when I notice that it's not mine, it's gone. It's gone the minute I notice and can recognize, then it's not an issue anymore. It's like it's almost as if recognizing it was enough for me to be like, oh, this person's going through that. Okay, they can have that. I'm over here doing my thing, right? Because I don't need to take that on.
Exactly. I love that. Yes. Very, very true. What are ways that people then can prepare? Like, if we're going to go into crowds, or we're going to go to a work environment, someplace that we know there's a lot of energy, and we're walking into it. What are the tools?
One of the
or a tool that you use?
I use a couple different ones. So yeah, so one of the first things I learned to do, this was kind of a little before I was into energy healing and could do it myself, but I learned to, like, put on a raincoat. I'd have to go to family functions. They're like the worst ever for people if you're not close to your family, or don't have a connection, or they're just toxic people. So I would literally imagine myself putting on like a big, like, body-sized rubber you know, water resistant, energy resistant, yellow raincoat. And I would zip it all up. I'd put the hood on, and that would be my protection. And so the intention is that anything energetic that you don't want is like hitting, the coat and not getting into you or onto you. You can imagine yourself in like a translucent bubble that covers your whole body up maybe a few feet out and around, up and down. And that is a really great way to keep the energy at bay. So you're not, because really we're picking up energy regardless of the distance of anything, right? So it's kind of almost a little more symbolic, but holding that intention that you are clear and this is your boundary, your energetic boundary. There's something just with the intention itself that keeps that, basically like you're holding somebody at arm's distance, right? You're keeping that energy at bay. So those are probably the two easiest that you can do. Anything that there's a lot of healer. If you're sensing energy, you're a form of an energy healer. So what feels right for you to do also, right? Like, do you need a big bubble but it's purple? Then do that. If you don't like a raincoat but you like to see yourself in like a clear box, like, then do that. So whatever resonates with you is what you should do, and it's right and perfect for you. But those are the things I find easiest now. My guides showed me I call it a clear and protect, but it's from 2017, and they showed me basically this like protection with filters and boundaries and this whole thing that I do I personalized it for myself when I was picking up a lot of things living here in Belize. And I was like, I thought it was me, right? I thought it was me. And then I realized, okay, I'm picking up other people's thoughts about me. And so they showed me this tool. And so I did it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, huge difference. Like, so now I know what people are thinking or feeling, but I'm not affected by the energy or the emotion of it. I just have the information. So this protection like filters through. We're empaths for a reason. We're here to help heal. We're here to bring light. We're here to create shifts, support other people. We need to know that information, but we don't need all the energy. We don't need all the emotional piece that just weighs us down and makes it difficult for us to discern who we are energetically versus someone else, because I've got everybody's everything on me. So that's the difference.
Yeah. Absolutely true. Oh my gosh. Great stuff. I love the writing it down. I've not ever done that. Writing down those intuitive hits that you get. What a great way to start to track it.
I did that as a joke when I was working. I worked at Boeing as a buyer, and every day I was like, is this my life? Like, I just felt like I was a Groundhog's Day, because I've always been spiritual. Like, I always have been searching and seeking and changing and growing, and I want to know everything and studying. And so I was into all this then, but I was still working, and I didn't really ever think I was going to do this professionally, because I was just having fun doing it,
Right.
And so I'm working and I'm learning intuition. I'm like, I need to start, like, I just started keeping a notebook, and I take it to work with me, and I do predictions on the football game, because everybody, in my department love football. And that's an easy thing, because you have the answer by the end of the day or the weekend, whenever the game is, right? Then who wins and who doesn't win. There's a 50-50 chance. Like, it's a really great way to practice. Someone's going to win, someone's going to lose. Like, who's it going to be? And so I started doing that. And I started writing it down. Like, is the guy I'm seeing going to call me tonight, or, or who I like, or whatever. Like, I would just use it and just start playing with it and having fun with it, because that's partly how my brain works too, right? Like,
yes.
Being all meticulous, and like, it was almost like a scientific theory, right? Like a hypothesis of something is kind of how it seemed to me. So that's where the tracking came. And really, I've found that if you don't track it, how can you measure your progress if you are not tracking anything? And so that's kind of where that came from too. And I realized that I had a lot of success because I tracked it, I revisited it, I put things together after the fact when I got my answers, because you have to also know if you're correct or not correct, because you learn from that too. Was I right? Was I not right? It's not about being right or wrong. It's about what is that intuition telling you as you go through your life, your daily life into the next weeks. Where does that pop up again for something, for
Yes.
putting it all together for you? So you're making sense of what your intuition is. You are creating your own definition of what things mean. When I sense this, it means this to me. If I sense this kind of feeling, or if I hear this type of thing, that's what it means to me. I'm very clairsentient, along with the clairempathy. Like, clairsentience is when you feel. And so I describe things a lot in how it feels to me. It feels to me like, you are this or that, or this is what's happening. It feels like this. Or if I'm describing another person, well, it feels like they are unsure about things, or that, like, I'm tapping into that. So that's what I'm writing down. Feels like this. I heard this. And then I quote it. What does that mean? I don't know. We'll wait and see. So it unravels as you go, because the more you're using it, the more you're gaining more insight into your own intuition. My intuition is not like your intuition. Everybody's intuition is so personal, so personalized, so different. I could see a tree and it means sturdiness, prosperity, health, whatever. And for you, it could be new growth and new beginnings and new something. So go
Yeah.
with it.
That's
That's
all very
you have to pay enough attention and define it enough so that it means something to you. So when you have it next time, oh, I just saw the tree there. It feels like it fits the situation here too, and it's still this, like, it's still that meaning.
Mhm.
So I think that's a huge part of it as well.
I love that. Well, I love to write, so that's going to be an easy one to implement. Oh, the question was right there. How have you? I have two parts to that. Well, there's two different ones that came in my head. So, what do you do for yourself to unplug at the end of your day? And how have you used your intuition with your empathic gift to set boundaries for yourself?
So for unplugging, there's a lot of things to do. Like, part of part of it too will go back to that noticing a little bit. Like, I kind of by accident started staying off social media about 3 years ago. And it was just for my business at first, but I'd pop in just to check notifications or something. But I just kind of stepped back. Granted, a lot was happening 3 years ago. So, but what I noticed when I wouldn't just not on purpose, but I just would kind of not be on social media for a few days, I found that I was more calm, and I wasn't like, I almost felt like my vibration was different, because I wasn't like, the FOMO, fear of being left out, or, is that what it's called? Fear, whatever. Oh, fear of
You're
missing out.
missing out. That's what it is.
Fear of missing out. I'm like, FOBO? No, FOMO. So I was like, I realized that I didn't miss it. When I wasn't on it, I didn't miss it. And when I would go back on it after being off a few days, I would feel tension. I would feel anxious, and I didn't like that feeling. So I left social media. I've still pretty much been off of it, except for here and there, and except for my own personal profile. But like, it just, I still find that when I'm not on there, I'm not missing anything. I'm not missing anything. So staying off social media is a really huge one for empaths, because there is a collective energy in each different platform, and they all are a drain to a certain level and in a certain way for each of us individually. So one platform may be super draining and another one not. And a lot of it is the collective energy that's in the platform. And
Yeah.
so think about that for yourself. I'm just muscle testing right now. I always get like a minimum of 3 days. The challenge is to try it for 3 days and stay off of social media and see how you feel. And that's going to be your litmus test to whether it affects you or not, and how it affects you.
Does that
So
include your personal business profile stuff that you do? You staff it all
that stuff I
together?
don't even do. I don't even really do my business stuff anymore. But yes,
Oh, got it.
it means the whole platform. It
Okay,
means
that's what I want
the
to.
app.
Got it.
Yep, it means the platform. So, and I would even include in that messaging. Okay. So
Yeah.
that's a big one. So speaking of messaging, I'm a huge lover of deleting messages regularly. If you really feel like you need to save them, there's probably a way to do it. You can either screenshot or maybe copy paste and do an email and send. Okay. But there is so much energy. Think about your phone. Think about all of the apps, all of the information, all of the energy that is in your phone. So on that note, um, remove apps that you aren't using. And I dare you to even reset your phone 100% back to factory settings regularly. I actually need
Ouch.
to do it. I need to do it on my Belize phone because I haven't done it since 2019. So I'm not really one to talk, but I do find it feels really good. So these are just things to think about. Okay. I know some of you are probably freaking out. Okay.
I went,
So
oh, the hard
I know.
reset. Oh, yeah.
Hey, cloud it up, people, cloud it up. And you know what I mean? You do your clouds and that should be fine. But I mean, just even think about, so I know I've removed my email, like I've deleted my email and then I put it back on. And you could set the sync settings, right? But I was like, wow, it's kind of nice to not have all of that stuff on my phone, like all the folders, all the everything. So you can be picky too about what you have downloaded to your phone. On
Yes.
that note, I highly suggest keeping your phone in another room. I highly suggest staying off your phone for consecutive 2+ hours a day.
Mm,
And that'll change if you like, I'm single. I don't have any, but like I'm not dealing with kids or, like
sure.
I can catch you in 2 hours. It's not going to be a big deal. Some of you have a little bit different situation. But keeping your phone in a different room, not looking at it all the time, turning off your notifications, turning off your ringer. Those are really great ways to kind of create some distance. Okay, so that's our social media section. Now, some other tools
Right.
are
Uh,
to like stop talking to people who drain you. So goes back to noticing if you're always in a bad mood after you talk to Susie. Sorry if your name is Susie. Anybody's name is Susie, just an example. But
generic.
if you're always drained, then that's telling you something. I had a really, really good friend way back in the day, and we would talk for hours every day. And I started growing more spiritual, like I was kind of up leveling, I guess, at one point. And I noticed like she always just was talking about the same stuff. She never took any action. It was always this. She was kind of loud and ADD, like all over the place, which isn't a bad thing. I'm just saying, like, for me, I was kind of on this, like, I was on a more focused path. And I noticed like she wasn't, uh, I was like, this is kind of getting old. So I stopped talking to her. Didn't miss it. Didn't miss her. Didn't miss, like, I noticed I didn't feel kind of that drained feeling after getting off the phone with her. So notice how you feel when you're interacting with people, and that'll be your biggest clue of whether you should keep interacting with them, or maybe you just text them instead of talk to them, or you keep it short to 10 minutes or something, or just don't talk to them anymore. It is okay to let me say it a different way. It is okay to step back from people who do not uplift you and who do not either help you raise your vibration or stay on the status quo. It is okay to choose yourself over draining people. Maybe that's the best way to say it.
Super healthy boundary. Choosing
Yeah.
yourself and creating
And
distance. That's a good boundary.
yeah, and you could create the distance in a lot of different ways. It doesn't have to be like, that's it, we're not friends anymore. I'm not ever talking to you again, which
It's not
that
that
is okay
extreme.
too. That's okay too. But it could be a weaning away. And part of how you know also, this is kind of more about, are people really your friends, but it's still about energy exchange. If
Yes.
you are the one making all of the effort, and you stop making the effort and that person isn't making effort, then there's your answer of where that relationship is, because relationships are an even exchange of energy with both people involved. So that's another, if somebody is calling you and only dumping on you the whole time, and it like you're like, okay, like you're there to solve their problems, and that's
Yeah.
another great empath, role that we have. Yay, just kidding, not really, but like we we got to take care of ourselves. So to kind of step back from that, so play with it. I would just say play with it and notice your energy levels, notice your mood levels after dealing with certain people.
I've noticed in that certain, the more I notice, the easier it is to just energetically set a boundary, and it starts to just kind of shift the relationship. There's not always something to be said. So I just,
Or even done. I think you're the
yeah,
same. Like if I just say to myself, and I say, I do this, I say, um, why am I connecting, with the exact right people for me or whatever, something along those lines, right? And then I just kind of let it go. Or you just have the intention like, hey, well, really, you can be cutting cords with everybody and everything just to keep your energy clear. And that would also help kind of dissolve some of those relationships that are just, I mean, I have friends that I've known since I was 9. So we grew up together. And I try to talk to them now. And part of it's good, but then part of it's like, well, I'm the only one reaching out. Or, well, do we really have anything to talk to anymore? Well, like, and it's not like I have to cut them off, but they're not in my circle. Like, they're not in my current circle, right?
yeah.
So I think that can happen too, where you still kind of genuinely like the person, but you're not really going out of, neither of you are going out of your way to
Foster.
you keep it going.
Foster
Yeah,
the
foster the relationship. Yeah.
small doses in those
Yeah.
relationships. I call
Yeah.
it. I just have small doses.
Well,
Sure.
yeah, exactly.
Thank you for that. That's awesome. Love those.
Yeah.
Love those tools.
Yay. Okay. I can't remember your last question about intuition and what.
I just went. The next one was the using your intuition as you set boundaries. So I think you've covered some of that in this.
I've covered most of it. Yeah. I think
part.
the main thing is, okay, so I mean, if you get a niggle or an intuitive flyby of something about somebody, then yeah, you're going to listen. So the other thing down the road, um, I call it passive intuition, which is when it just comes to you out of the blue, right? And then there's what I call active intuition. So it's like, okay, I'm sitting here as me, and I want to find out things about my life using my intuition. And so, and that I talk about that too and teach that, because intuition isn't always just, oh, well, it just comes out of nowhere. It's you can actually hone your intuitive skills and start using it to figure out things in your life that you want to figure out. So I would be probably going through, I've done this with friends before. Is this a real friend? Is this an even exchange of energy? Are they authentic? Are they really who they say they are? And I use intuition to answer those questions. And part of that would be, as it relates to empaths, is like, I use it all the time. Should I go to this party? On Wednesday, when the party is, do I want to go? Will I want to go? Will I have the energy to go? And that can shift all the
Oh,
time
that's
in
great.
any moment. Yeah. And it's a really good one. And I would check regularly. Like I've been I moved now, but up until this point where I moved recently, I'm asking every day, because it was different. It was like one day it was no, the next day it was neutral, the next day it was yes. And I'm just,
Oh yeah.
why? Because I'm changed, like in my mood that day or in my energy or what I'm thinking, all of that stuff, it changes every day because I've been all over the place. Do I want to move? I don't want to move. But I can't stay there. But where do I go? What are my choices? Oh, they're very limited. Okay. No wonder I'm all over the place. No wonder my intuition can't stay still, because I'm not. So,
Right.
that's probably a bad example, but I mean, that's an
It's
example
good.
of how
No, it's a good
things
one.
change.
I like it.
Yeah. It's
Because you know what?
so,
What happens, I feel, for people is that when it's not, the intuition is not consistent, it's still there.
yeah, it's not that
And
it's
create
wrong.
that. doubt if I didn't realize that it's based on my moods and what's in my best
Yes.
moment.
And I want to
Like,
speak, I want to expound on that, because yes, that's exactly, it's not that my intuition was wrong all of those days when it got yes, no, neutral, whatever. It's that maybe even the landlord is causing a change. Maybe the future landlord, right? Maybe it's the energy of the place or the other people living there. There's all sorts of reasons why intuition isn't, at the end of the day, doesn't maybe seem right or correct. But it's not really that. It's that everything is changing. We're in an influx of energy, especially right now. I feel like I tell people all the time, like, hey, this is what I'm getting for timing, like right in this moment. But dude, I'm not even trusting timing for my own life, because the way it's
yes.
changing, and timing has in the past been pretty spot on, but it's like, it's not that I don't trust it, but I don't do anything based on the timing, because everything is changing, because we are changing so much too.
Oh, so fast, so fast. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that you touched on that, because it is changing so fast.
Mm-hmm.
And I know for myself that there was so much doubt, and that we talked about it earlier, I just dismissed it. So really practicing and learning how to tune in. And this is what your gift is for anybody who's joined here, that Rock Your Intuition ebook and a companion practice playbook. So that's
Really excited.
perfect to like wrap it all up about that, really learning to trust yourself and your intuition.
Yeah. And have it be not so scary, not that scary is the right word, but not so big and luminous and, oh, it's my intuition. Like, yeah, I wrote the book because I wanted to take kind of the fun approach that I had to it, and like the practical, like fun games. You're making a game out of it, because then it's not so serious. Then you're just writing stuff down in your book and you're just noticing. That's all it is you're noticing and you're trusting and you're tracking it. It's so you're going to get in this book the different ways to practice, and everybody might relate or resonate better with a different way. It might work so well for you, but not for someone else. So there's a bunch of examples of how it's describing the different types of intuition that you might not have realized what type you have. You might have always just thought, oh, I'm clairvoyant because I can see stuff. Well, you may not be realizing that you've been hearing stuff too, and you're just thinking it's you or something. So there's ways to distinguish what your types are. And then I teach you how to track. I teach you about active versus passive. I go into muscle testing. I talk about 18 reasons why your intuition might be wrong or incorrect, or actually what I should say is shifting, or not what you thought it was going to be.
Yes.
And there's a little bit about the story about how I, moved to Belize, and that's going to be another book on its own. But anyway, so there's a little bit about like the move, building up to trusting intuition to get to Belize and all of that stuff. So the companion practice playbook are some worksheets that you can use to track what you're getting, to little summary of how to practice, what your goals are. What do you want your goal to be? Do you want to use, you probably don't want to move to Belize. Well, maybe do, but what do you want to use your intuition for? Is it just random here and there? You don't really care that much about it, or do you really want to incorporate it and use that? Basically, I call it soul wisdom, and it's this empowering, I trust myself so much more than when I was stuck in my brain going, should I do this or should I do that? Is this right or is that wrong? What's going to happen if I do this? What's going to happen if I do that? And now I'm just like, I don't even have to get all meditative, but it's just so automatic now with intuition. It's like, oh, yep, nope, yep, nope. So it makes it really easy. Blame it on your intuition. Blame it on your intuition. My intuition says that can actually backfire on you, but concept. So yeah,
beautiful.
So I'm excited about that. Yeah.
It's beautiful. I can't wait to see it. I can't wait to read it and read all the more stuff, because I'm sure I've gleaned just from our conversation here. Mm-hmm. Several tools that I've practiced, and several that I can begin to implement. So that's super exciting to me. And the gift of this ebook and playbook is a super bonus, super bonus that we can have it in writing, because I guess I can listen and hear it all. And then if I can see it in writing, I can implement it a little bit easier. So I appreciate you. We have so much in common. So exciting to get to be here together.
Yes, thank
Are
you
there
so
any
much.
last words that you'd like to share just to wrap it up?
I'm getting prompted. I just feel like if anybody wants to take on the phone challenge, that would be my biggest thing. The phone and social media. I think that can literally change and shift your energy to the better, just to kind of back away a little bit, see how that feels without freaking out. Baby steps. But that's one of the biggest things. I didn't even think it was that big of a deal for me, but when I did it, I was like amazed at how much I didn't miss it, how much my energy was different. I can barely scroll through the news feed without feeling a flurry of things. And so I've been actually also on a big purge of friends, groups, page, all that stuff. I actually, the other day, it was so overwhelming. I was like, I kind of just want to start over. I just want to start over with a new account. And that could be what some people do too. But anyway, so I've been noticing a big shift, just getting rid of like 500 friends. That I could feel the difference in my own personal profile. So
I
for
love
what
that.
it's worth, I think that's the biggest thing kicking the empaths in the pants right now, with the anxiety and the polarity on the social media site. So just really feel into it for yourself and think about what's best for you as an empath, or what would feel best for you, and then decide
What resonates, right? What resonates?
yeah, what resonates. Yeah. And
take a break and try.
and there's degrees of sensitivity, right? So I mean, I'm way up here off the chart sensitive, but I'm not saying all empaths need to do this, but I'm saying it really might help you manage your energy and your levels and your vibration more. Because I know for me, I can also get really tired easily just from all the energies. And we're picking up world energy right now too, like global consciousness, or even planetary stuff. There's just a lot. It just feels like there's been a lot going on the last few years. So cut yourself some slack with that, and just kind of notice what you need to do to balance yourself out, whatever that means.
Oh, yes. Thank you so much for that.
You're welcome.
I feel that for sure, that purging of the social media. It's a big thing. It's a definite cultural addiction. So click the link below, get your free gift with more of the tools, more than what Jill shared here today. And start to implement what resonates for you at any given moment, because sometimes I find it can be different. I might use this one this time and another one the next time, whatever my guidance is. So thank you so much for joining me.
You're so welcome. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate you, and we will be back soon.